Hello, 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 and welcome everybody. Thomas M. Copeland here, your host, Big Break Pod. Thanks for joining me today. So, today's guest is going to be Bianka Krausch. Hey everybody, Thomas M. Copeland here, host of Big Break Pod. Thanks for taking the time to join me today and our guest. So today's guest is Bianka Krausch. She is the owner and operator of Talent Direct Agency, or short for TDA, here in South Florida. And she's actually my agent. And in addition to her, there's a few other wonderful women who work at that agency as well. And in particular, my agent Sabine Dibbern, who represents me in film and television, and Jamie, who represents in commercial as well. So it's really a wonderful team of women-led business. I'm really excited to have Bianka here today. In our interview, we really kind of talk about sort of how Bianka sort of became a talent agent here in South Florida more than 16 years ago, and sort of how she got her footing and sort of how she made her way around Miami, got a lay of the land. And she talks about the boom times in South Florida that another guest on my show, Lori Wyman, talked about in the sort of, I guess, mid-teens of the 2000s, when there was all sorts of, sort of state and county credits going around for the Film Commission in Florida, and sort of all the films that came down for that. It was really kind of a boom time. And sort of, if that was the, if that was the flow, then of course the ebb to that flow has been sort of recently, with some of those many state credits actually being cut, unfortunately, at the state legislature. So we talk a little bit about sort of how she's navigating that and how we should be navigating that as talent and as actors and performing artists that are represented by agents here in South Florida. So our discussion is really far and wide ranging. I got to learn a lot about her that I didn't know, and a lot about TDA that I didn't know. We also talk about sort of like what a talent agent should be to you. And I have a really particular opinion about this. You'll hear me talk about it in the interview, but the short of it is this. Look, we're actors, right? We're creatives. We're performing artists. We should know and understand and learn how to read a contract. Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, that's not our strong suit, right? If paperwork was our strong suit, we would have very different careers. But our strong suit is being creative and being ourselves, and having the space to do that. And paperwork doesn't always fit into that, right? So like one of the roles that I look to my talent agent and TDA in particular on is helping me sort of document those contracts, reading over those contracts and making sure that they're normal and that they make sense. Making sure that, for example, we have sort of usage rates built into my day rate that I command as an actor for both commercial and film, because those are different rates, ensuring that if the usage is only 1 year, for example, that she's on top of when that year expires, so that she can go right back to that production company a year later and ask to show us the moolah, right, if they want to keep using it. So that's really her strengths and her role. I get to sort of give her all of the headache of sort of managing sort of the paperwork and the important stuff and the business side of it, and I get to just focus on being a creative. The agency also submits me for projects. That's another really important thing that they do, although be aware that I do submit myself for certain projects as well. They do a lot, but they don't do everything. It's all still on us as actors to also continue to submit ourselves. But they also handle, a lot of the logistics, costuming, day of preparations, what are our shoot dates, what are our fitting dates, right? Making sure that contract is in place and signed on time, making sure that we get paid, and making sure that that check makes it to me as well. So in my opinion, all of this is well worth the fees that we pay as actors, the commissions that we pay to our agents, because it really takes that whole headache off of us, and we can really just focus on doing what we do best. So I am very, very grateful to have TDA as my agency. I've been lucky to be represented by them, I think, since maybe 2020. So I think it's been 3 or 4 years, which is pretty wild. To give you kind of some idea, I'm in South Florida, and I probably do on average in a year anywhere between 100 to maybe 120 auditions in the year. That is a lot of auditions, of course, and most certainly TDA is responsible for helping to coordinate so many of those auditions. So having an agent is incredibly important. And today, in today's interview, we talk about how you're going to catch the attention of an agent, how you catch their attention, right? The do's, the don't do's. Bianka really gets into it with me over this the course of this interview. So here comes Bianka, agent at TDA. She's going to be joining me here in a couple of minutes on this episode. So stick around.
If you're an actor serious about your craft, then you know you're serious about improving your read, your presentation, and your on-camera delivery. And there's no faster way to sharpen your skills than with detailed, collaborative feedback from your fellow actors, directors, casting directors, coaches, and other creative professionals in the industry. So how do you get in front of the people you need to impress? With Show Coach. Available for Apple and Android, this exciting app gives you a stage to showcase your work, including self-tapes, reels, and monologues, specifically to solicit feedback from the professionals who can hire you. And for a limited time, Show Coach is absolutely free to use. Industry professionals can apply to become a coach and earn money for critiquing student posts. Download the app as a student or coach from your mobile app store or visit showcoach.app to learn more. That's showcoach.app. Show Coach, artists encouraging greatness.
All right, everybody. Well, welcome back. And joining me in studio here today in Boca is going to be Bianka Krausch. Bianka is the owner, agent, and talent direct of Talent Direct Agency. She's Film Florida Community Outreach Coordinator, board member and South Florida branch co-chair for Women in Film and TV, WIFT. We'll talk about that today. And newly appointed board member for Subtropic Film Festival based in Palm Beach County. Bianka, thank you so much for being with me here today. And I actually do have one more little piece of your bio here, which is mother of three. Which is a lovely thing.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for coming in. I saw the mother of three and I'd be remiss to not say that I am a father of one, and I think I'm gonna leave it right at one. We're gonna say one and done is what me and my wife are saying. But anyway, have you lived in South Florida really your whole life, or tell us a little bit about kind of where?
Actually, I moved to the States when I was 14 from Germany, and then spent about 8 years in the Midwest, graduated from college, and wasn't so excited about, I lived in Indianapolis, Indiana, wasn't so excited about work opportunities and, I don't know, a lot of different things. So my best friend moved down to South Beach, so I was like, all right, me too.
Yeah.
And then that's what I did in 2004, and I've been here ever since.
Very cool. So what brought you to South Beach? Was it really just that simple? Your friend was moving. You said, that sounds fun. I'll go for that.
Well, yeah. So I had kind of dabbled. This was obviously a long time ago, but I dabbled in modeling and acting, and was actually getting, a few gigs here and there. But I just graduated college, and I worked for a television station, and they had a sister station here in Fort Lauderdale. So they thought, because my name is Bianca, that I was bilingual. Nobody ever cared to ask. So when I submitted for the transfer,
they didn't read the Krausch at the other side of it. They didn't read the Krausch part.
Bianca with a K.
Right.
So when I showed up, and they realized I was not bilingual. Ad sales for TV down here is pretty tough if you don't speak Spanish. So that was so yeah.
An email or a fax would have been too much to levy that. You have to be there to see that.
Yeah,
That's very funny.
Yeah, so I lived in South Beach and dabbled in the industry and really enjoyed it and stayed.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I'm so happy that you're in here today. By the way, I think this is the first time we've met in person. So again, thank you for coming. It's great to see you. I have been represented by TDA now for, I think, maybe at least 2 to 3 years. So I'm really proud to be represented by y'all. You do wonderful work, and it's been a real pleasure working mostly with Sabine over time, Jamie as well, and I think you and I on maybe a few projects here and there. So I wanted to bring you in today and really kind of just like pick your brain for our listeners out there about sort of, the topic of just kind of like, what does an agent look for in new talents? When do you look for new talent? And for your existing talents, sort of what's sort of the drive that keeps an existing talent on your roster? So I know that was a lot of questions, and we'll just we'll back them out. I tend to throw too much on the wall at once, so we'll pick them all off. And maybe a good place to start would be, just a little bit about, first of all, actually backing up, TDA has been now operating for how long?
Well, we started in 2006 with a little bit different format. We were called Model Store back then, so we utilized model like talent for events, and that then 2008, which we were talking about earlier, all marketing budgets were cut, so we had to kind of change gears. That's when I found out, or basically, I'm more interested in doing background work for clients, and then we added that, and then it just kind of naturally progressed from there. So it's been 18 years.
Wow, fantastic.
2006, yeah, 18 years.
Yeah, that's really exciting. What was the bootstrap environment like when you first started, and maybe even when you started to make that sort of what sounds like a very fateful transition in 2008? Were you always kind of a bootstrap entrepreneur? Like, did you have to learn that? I mean, what was that? If you take yourself back to that time, what was that like?
Definitely bootstrap entrepreneur. Definitely made every mistake on the books. Definitely learned from it and then moved on. I think so. I started in 2006. So I had my first child in 2008. So imagine here you are like.
Okay. Sounded like audio was cutting out.
That's good because I'm going to rephrase that anyway. That's fine.
Okay, cool. And if
that's what it was. No, it was like I was like a little kid each hand, and then like market crashed. I'm like, shit.
Like, it's on CNN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went from like actually like being same like being able to support myself to like $600 a month like and like gross revenue, and I was like, net revenue, and I'm like, ah.
Oh my goodness.
Want to try again? Can you check the audio?
Hello.
Okay. And we'll just cut that part out.
Okay, should we go back? I can go back to the bootstrap question.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right, start whenever.
Okay, great. So 2006, and especially into that fateful transition into 2008 that you just described, that was a very different time, even just 18 years ago, than what it is today with technology and what entrepreneurship sort of is. Take us back to that 2006 to 2008 time, and sort of how you bootstrapped this endeavor, this idea, really.
Absolutely. So what kind of happened? I was, like I said, working in the industry and based out of South Beach, and I had a lot of clients that started sort of asking, "Hey, can you bring 5 talent of this or 2 of that, or do you have anybody who's who can present as a host or whatever it was?" So all the requests started coming in, and this was like pre-unlimited AT&T plans. So I started helping a lot of my clients, help them with their events, but then I would get stuck with like a $700 phone bill at the end of the month, but I wasn't making any money from it. So at some point, my then boyfriend, now husband, was like, "Hey, you really need to transition from organizing this for people and being like the one that they always call to making this a business." So in 2006 in December, I had my first huge event with Art Basel, and one of my clients who's still my friend to this day, who just opened up Meat Market here in Boca.
Oh yeah, sure.
They back then had a company called Touch Catering, and so I helped them staff 3 humongo events, and then they had a check ready for me, and I didn't have a business account. So then like I hear him running around with this huge check, mid 5 digits, and I'm like, oh God, what do I do? And it took me a week to open up an account. And then deposit the check, and then here I'm sitting like handwriting checks, and I was still working myself at the same time. So that's kind of how it started, and the word got out really quickly. South Beach is a very small community, just like our film community is now. Yeah. Everybody knows everyone, and it was really awesome. Everybody just kept referring me on, so I was able to. I think after my first child, I still was kind of working a little bit, but when I was pregnant again in 2010, I decided I can't, I have to fully transition into this other side of it. Mm-hmm. But 2008, when the market crashed, I just given birth. But I remember like everybody, Food and Wine Festival and Art Basel, the budgets went from like 50,000, 80,000, 90,000 to literally like 3,000, 2,000. So I wasn't able to make this business sustain itself. So we added other components to it, and the first one was being background extras. Then they started asking me for actors, and then in 2011 somebody was like, "Well, can you get me SAG extras as well?" I'm like, "I don't know, let me find out." And then I applied to get the SAG franchise, and then it just kind of, it really was super organic.
Yeah,
like it was just literally one thing after another. In 2012 I opened up in LA, and then that just I was flying out there every week, learned so much, but then at some point also decided, when Atlanta started picking up, I want to be closer to home. So we shut down LA, we opened up Atlanta, and that stayed until March of 2020.
Yeah, wow. So it's really just a a history of kind of waiting for an opportunity to come up and just kind of being ready for that opportunity when it came, just kind of being ready for that phone call.
Trying it, see if it sticks. And if it doesn't stick, abort.
That's right.
Like, do something different.
That's right.
And we're really good at that now. But I wish if I could tell my younger self anything, it would have been abort faster.
Is that right?
Yeah. Just if it doesn't work, or if it's not what you really want to do, if it's not something you fully embrace and stand behind, especially as a business owner when it is 24/7, I think I would have left LA sooner.
That's funny.
And
I kind of am thinking back to sort of my experiences in starting various companies, having started a real estate brokerage company in 2016 that ran for about 4 years, and then starting the company that I have now, which does software design and development for lawyers. And then also a production company, marketing company that I've had on my own. It's funny, I never had a problem with aborting quickly. I was always like, in fact, if anything, maybe my problem was I got too distracted too quickly and like left on the table some really good ideas that, had I really latched onto, could have put me on a different path from today. Looking ahead, when did you kind of feel like you had an eye for talent? Was that ever like a thing? Did you ever sort of realize that maybe you had an eye for talents? Maybe this was during casting for background roles where you might see somebody and maybe try to help promote them up a little bit more. Or maybe it was when, somebody had called and asked you for SAG extras. But like, can you pinpoint a time when you started to kind of realize like, I know how to find good talent out there and I can advocate for them. And I've learned that I've got this skill for advocating as a manager for them, as a talent agent for them.
Sure. I think a lot of it came with experience. I think when I got my first like real office where actors would come in and read for us was in 2011. Yeah, 2011. And 2012 was when I opened LA, and I hired a young lady there, and I saw how she was going through the monologues, people coming into the office to read, what they really need to have. And I feel like between what we kind of already worked with and then what I learned while I was in Cali, we rented a place in Venice Beach for the summer. So I got pretty involved. And like I said, I flew out every week.
Wow.
Flew out every week.
It's a long flight. That flight is tough.
Yeah, it is, especially with the two little ones at home. So it was a lot. And I really, I would maximize my time when I was there. I would literally read people all day. Then I would go to every, whether it's a workshop, showcase, I would audit, acting coaches. Like I really got super involved in the community. And I think that kind of showed us what we're looking for, what the clients are looking for. And honestly, I think if you really dial in a little bit, if you really read a script or you read a breakdown, pay attention. I can't just throw flies against the wall. And I think that's just not how we operate anyway. And I learned on Enneagram, I'm definitely what's right is right, and you got to do it right. And if it's not right, then it's like, to me, I can't go to sleep. So learning all these different things and then compiling into our process, I think is really what helped us get here.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to read those breakdowns in that script.
I can almost see from an email if I'm going to like someone or not, with
Really?
how they approach their email. Very rarely, and this I've been wrong. Very rarely do they like all of a sudden show up and they're amazing. If the email already like how they address you, how it's put together, the communication back and forth.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good skill set to have.
Yeah, so what we're really talking about here is one of the most basic skill sets, which is being able to write and compose a compelling email that is professional, it is succinct, and it is readable, and it's relatable. Which, I guess I could sort of imagine you've seen many of the opposite of that,
Yes.
much of the opposite of that, and very rarely seeing sort of a well-defined, well-crafted, sort of almost like a pitch, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because you probably do get pitches from prospective actors or people who are looking to reach out.
Yeah, and I think the best way you can kind of explain that is it's your name LLC, right? It's your career. I just facilitate. We facilitate. We try to find opportunities. We try to guide people in the right direction. But at the end of the day, it's really what you put into it is what you will get out of it. And I can't do that for you, right? The actor has to come in and want that. I mean, I think my two favorite things is when the phone rings, talent direct. Hey, tell me about your company. No. And I hang up and I'm so sorry. You can find us online. Goodbye. And that's it. And I don't even spend any time on it. And then we'll get this awesome Google review. Oh, they're mean. No, but you just didn't even do the very first thing is at least look the company up and see if there's a process.
Sure.
In that. And then the other one is same thing. So it's actually in our, like we have a submission tab. So if in talent submission, submit, and they'll just say, hey, I want to find out more about what you do. Can you imagine if I answered those emails all day, every day, or I had somebody on staff like that just answered, because then it doesn't stop.
Right.
So that means that you went through this whole paragraph that tells you exactly what we do and what we want to see. And you went to the very bottom where the email is that if this all doesn't work, then you can submit.
Right.
So you went through all that trying to find the email and didn't even read it.
Yeah, it's funny. It's sort of like, and that really kind of gets to the heart of what I wanted to talk about today too, funny enough, which is how to capture a talent agent's attention. And so like, I think those emails that you're describing is more like the lack of an effort, right? Of like trying to capture a talent agent's attention. So I definitely want to talk about that. And in fact, I want to talk about sort of like how I got TDA's attention. I think I got TDA's attention, and I'd love to be able to tell that story. And I'd love to hear if you have any stories that are similar to that. But I'm curious when it comes to new talents, because you do have the submission form online, and I also see that sometimes TDA looks for talent, and sometimes TDA doesn't. I've seen posts that say, "Not right now," everybody hold off on your submissions. We're really fully booked. We're focused on our current roster right now. But then I will see the post that might come out, whenever it comes out. It seems maybe cyclical. It kind of seems maybe seasonal, which might be, I'm sure, intentional. But then that'll say, hey, now's the time, go ahead and get your submissions in. So when you get those submissions, I can hear already that you're looking for sort of a professional package, a well put together package, and really kind of like everything we might expect, right? Like a decent cover letter, a well-written email, headshots that are there, or at least sort of an attempt if you don't have professional headshots yet. What else that, besides the obvious, what might you look for in new talent that might capture your attention in just that sort of like submission sort of space, right?
Sure. So definitely something put together, thought out, hey, Catherine, blah, blah, blah. There's nobody named Catherine on my team. That's already that's hard. I mean, it means that they copied and pasted and they're sending this all over the place. In submissions, I like to see a good headshot, a reel, resume, training. It really depends on what you're going for. If you're a model, obviously the training part isn't as important, and we're looking more for physical characteristics. But even then, it says on there, some digitals. We even have samples of how we want to receive those digitals, and then have that sent in. When it comes to new talent, and I'm sure you're going to get to this later, but because we're exclusive, we don't take multiples of the same type of person. So sometimes there may be some multiples that maybe have different abilities, different training levels. Maybe there's a little bit of an age range. Maybe this person kind of goes more for these roles, that person for that. But we try to be really aware of not overbooking ourselves with the same people over and over and again, because it's not fair. I mean, you can have 2, 3 that can go for the same roles, but that's it. If you have more than 3, like in a film breakdown, there's an issue.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be a casting office that would actually receive 10 people from the same agency for the same role. Like, impossible. Not going to happen. But that's kind of what we look for. We do also like it if a acting coach sends a recommendation letter, or if they know someone that they've worked with, that then maybe sends an email and says, hey, can you take a look at that? Now here in Florida, sometimes that's used very loosely. And I feel like people are making recommendations with people that they have not worked with just because they met them on set one time. Don't do it. Don't put your name out in conjunction with someone else that you don't have any control over that directly reflects on you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I honestly, I know, of course, about the exclusivity with TDA. I didn't realize that it was tied directly to trying to sort of limit the types that you can put in. I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Well, that's because that's the best way. Well, I can go back to like 2019, I think, is when we started with that. We had about 2,500 people on our roster. And that's probably, it is, but it's not different than anybody else here.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And especially because commercially, I mean, you can represent so many different people if you want to. Shaving it down, I think we're now at like 400. Shaving it down that much. Obviously, sometimes now it doesn't give me the ability to fill an entire set like I used to. But what we've decided for us is that we want a different relationship. I want to work with people that I know, trust, and like. Like I don't mind taking somebody new in and we work together and whatever. And it's also okay if somebody wants to leave. They just don't get, I can't keep connected after that because I have to focus on the people that are in front of us. But we really decided that we wanted to do quality first, not quantity, that we wanted to work with people for a long time. It's a lot of work onboarding talent.
Yeah.
People don't realize this. Like it takes us, I think, anywhere between 2 and 4 hours for one person to onboard them. And That's 5 of us.
Create the file, organize the photos, understand the resume, put it on the website.
Putting them out there, do promotion. We're actually, which we're really excited about. We're going to start doing actor highlights now. It's like we're constantly evolving, trying to figure out how else can we market people out into the universe. And we don't just sit there and wait for phone calls. I'm super active in engaging clients. I go to all the events. I go to all the events out of town, and I bring clients in. So that's kind of, we're asking people to only work with us, and I also on the other side of this, also want to make sure that I have the work available, that I can book you, that I can offer opportunities, that we can keep people busy.
Yeah.
And I take that really, really serious. I mean, I think most people that know us or know of us know that we're always pushing.
100%. And I mean, I've seen it, I've seen it as represented talent. I saw it before I was represented as well. There's a lot of social media push. There's a heavy marketing apparatus behind the whole thing, behind the website, behind these fancy terms like SEO and SEM and content sort of management and promotion. But you have a background in that, as I understand. So that's really where that can kind of come from. And I do think that that's something that's unique. I think there are talent agencies is an interesting thing, because they're sort of like the legacy talent agencies that have been in South Florida forever, with people who have, sort of been at the helm of those things, where they probably do represent, 2,500 people. And I don't know how you manage that. That to me is outrageous. I mean, I'm reading a book now. In fact, actually, he's going to be a guest on our show, and this is John Frank Levy, right for the role.
Okay.
The book is really interesting. He was casting director at Warner Brothers for years, through the ER years, West Wing, and also Shameless. Really accomplished casting director. But he talks a lot about how in the 90s, how he ran his office, and it's fascinating. It's a giant room in the Warner Brothers studio, where he had, those big metal cabinets and just hundreds of photos stacked on top of each other in a particular way with particular pieces. And I just think about that, and I wonder how we've been able to sort of digitize that and stay on top of it. I imagine if you're a casting director with 2,500 represented people, it's got to be difficult to manage from a technical perspective today, unless there's some sort of a software out there.
It's a software.
Use.
Yeah, it's all softwares. And we were always really labor heavy. I actually went from, I think my biggest office was 2,500 square feet. We had a lot more people working in it. Then we went down to 1,500. So somebody's filing cabinets got scanned. Then that's when headshots went away. Like we didn't. I don't even have a single headshot in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I brought one into a theater audition one time, and everybody kind of looked at me like, "What is that thing?" And I was like, "Don't worry about it. This is nothing."
You should still have it. Still have 10 of them in your car, because you never know. This could be that one out-of-state casting director that's meeting you in person that maybe at night wants to be at the hotel and go and organize so they don't have to print.
Sure, especially at these events.
Yeah,
especially at these events.
Exactly. So I would still have it, but it's just we went from that to now everything is online.
Yeah.
I mean, we even pay digitally, so everything is we try every time there's a new software. I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And half the time my team's like, no, let's not make any more changes. I'm like, yes, let's make. I'm a very pro technology person. Wherever we can use it, let's use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, I think in the cliched age of digital, it is so important. I'm like maybe one of the worst offenders probably in the TDA roles of rosters of people who just do not post on social. I'm trying to get better at it. This podcast has helped me to get better at it for sure. But yeah, it seems like a cliche, but it really is true that sort of content is kind of king. Mm-hmm. Being able to promote faces and activities that are happening, and roles when they're being casted behind the scenes. I have to say, Sabina has been very good at getting on my butt and making sure I'm taping it and I'm posting it when I'm on set. Because when I'm on set, I mean, I'm on set.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I'm not doing that. But so it's been kind of a learning curve for me. But the bottom line is, and I guess the point I'm making, is that that's the sort of necessary work that has to happen behind the scenes that nobody really sees, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that I think that happens behind the scenes. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty known for fighting for rates, fighting for the correct setup on set, and I think there are so many countless hours going into that people aren't even aware of. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, they just get a check a week later. But on our end, some of the stuff sometimes takes 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. If I need SAG-AFTRA's help, we just got something paid from 2.5 years ago where a client flew one of our talent out, and we stay on this. For us, the project isn't done.
Yep.
Just because we couldn't collect, we had to go through all the right ropes.
Yep. And
do the stuff, and then finally they did get a settlement for him. But I mean, it's been 2.5 years, which is crazy.
Unquestionably, and I have to say, as somebody who is very aware that I'm good at some things and not good at others, the things that I'm not good at is I'm not good at paperwork. I don't take photos. I know I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to take photos of
No, Tom.
You know what I do? No, I know. But you know what I do?
God.
Is here's why I'm still okay at it. I take photos of the contract and I send it to Sabina.
Yeah.
Aha.
And then we put it in a system.
And then it's in my phone. So there it is.
Yes.
But truth be told, like I'm not the best at following dates and like following contracts and like I don't know if that contract says. Now hold on, everybody who's listening, do read your contracts, do take photos of them, absolutely. And I understand the contract enough to like understand on the surface, but like it's really nice to be able to like snap the photo, read it, understand it, shoot it over to my agent. She goes, got it. She puts it. It's in the file. We know the job was done. She submits the invoice. The invoice is paid. The money comes in my bank account. And I get to just focus on doing what I do best. Now, maybe lots of those steps or maybe only some of those steps is something that like sort of any agency might do. But I do have to say that, Sabina, I know you have, and I know I'm sure Jamie has too. I mean, just following up and ensuring that, especially when it comes to the first year renewals, right? And there's always a second year. And like, we want to be on top of like when that second year happens. So I've been very grateful, I should say, that I'm able to sort of offload kind of the heavy work, and I can just go to set and just do my thing. I can just do my self-tape.
Practice your craft.
Just do my thing. Yeah, 100%.
But that's how it should be. But I'll tell you, I mean, even when we put all the things in place and they let us pre-read the contract, you might still get something else on set that we haven't seen yet. So everybody should 1,000% read their contracts. You're there 12 hours. Read your contract.
That's right. And you got time too.
Yeah,
Lord
you have
knows
time.
you're hurrying up and waiting, so you got time too.
And if you have questions, don't ask that. Don't ask the PA. Don't ask a friend of a friend. Don't ask the background extra.
Right.
Treat it to your agent.
Straight
This
to
is
your
what I read here. I don't understand it. And they should, if they're doing their job correctly, they should be able to answer your question or at least say, I don't know, let me get back to you and find out for you. You should be able to just be a good talent, practice your craft on set, and you shouldn't have to get into any altercations on set or feel like you're asking the wrong questions. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge proponent of that.
It takes the conflict out of your day.
Totally. Yeah. And and it's well worth the fees that we as talent pay to the agencies as well. Unquestionable. So I'm curious. So in all these years that you have been working in TDA, have you ever had talent pitch themselves to you in a way that was like unique or interesting or memorable? I'm really curious of like, because you've probably seen a lot. So like we've seen the bad submissions. Everybody, don't do that. Don't email her and say, hey, how you doing? Or hey, what's up? Hey, tell me about you. No. But like, what are some of the ways that you've seen maybe over the years that have been like really memorable? Have you ever seen anything like super memorable that really caught your attention?
I mean, memorable, we've had all kinds of different people when we had the office, like walk in and with, giant cakes or like anything that I heard you guys, you're vegan and like, and really, really go out. And then you felt double, triple bad. But a really good way. And some of my favorite people that work with us now that maybe we didn't take on the first turn, just because the way that they submitted, like I said, we just didn't see what we needed to see. Started, like one came to our picnic as a guest, and she works all the time now. And I love that even though we said no the first time, she's like, okay, rethink. I know I'm good.
Yeah.
She has a production company. And she's like, I just need it. So somewhere we didn't click, came in, love her.
Awesome.
So that was one way, and I'm not saying come to all the events and come talk to us now because it doesn't always work because when we're hosting, we're busy, and then like I might meet somebody and then have to go back and like figure out who's who.
Yep.
But we had all kinds of. I can't believe there's one person that I was in Atlanta holding an open call and I declined them in Florida, and they flew to Atlanta. That was kind of crazy.
Wow, commitment.
Yeah, I had a young boy that I met at a scouting thing in the Bahamas that happens to just live 10 minutes from our office.
Wow.
So there's some like that came in that I'm like really excited. Like, I don't know. There's just like, I guess the stars aligned. I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
And it just worked. But I don't have any like crazy funny story. Only bad ones.
Yeah. Oh, unfortunately, right place, right time. I think I met y'all because the way I'm going to tell this story, and Sabina might tell it differently, but I think I'm going to tell it the right.
Yeah.
Which is that so I was in a play. I think it was in a black box. I think it was God of Carnage in Lake Worth Beach, and I had tickets set aside. Of course, as actors, we get a certain number of tickets. So I bought tickets for my family to come see, and I set aside, I think, the 4 tickets that I was given for free, and I invited 4 different agencies to come. And I think 2 of the 4 that I invited came, and Sabina was one of them. I think I invited TDA Sabine didn't come, but it just so happens that I think she was maybe impressed enough with the action that we invited in for an interview, and I interviewed with really all of them, and I ended up choosing TDA. TDA and Sabine was really right for me in the end. So that was kind of an interesting story because that's unique and different. That's an interesting way to get some attention. So I kind of just want to get like the listeners here, creative juices flowing, really to like hammer home the point that you don't send the email. And even if you're going to do a submission's hard because submission requires you to go over the submission and be impressed by it. Like that's kind of a high bar. That's a thing that can be difficult, you know, if you're not a good writer or if you're not thinking through all these important points that you've already laid out about how to make your submission, you know, persuasive. Mine was just like totally left field. It was like, hey, I've got tickets to a show. I'd love for you to come out. Your tickets will be at will call. Just walk on up. You'll have two. And like, I think it was the next week that she wrote me back and was like, how'd your show go? And I was like, it was great. She's like, well, I couldn't make it, but can we meet on Zoom later this week? And we did. It was great. So I guess I just wanted to more or less get some creative juices flowing for some of our listeners. Any other sort of last thought tips about how, you know, somebody can kind of stand out in you or your agent's eyes?
Sure. I mean, I think whenever you get yourself into a position where you create a win-win for everybody, I think, listen, I mean, when I pitch my agency to collectively ours, when I pitch to new clients, I go on their website, then I go on Facebook, I see what the owner likes or whoever is in charge of their communications or whoever, maybe, or a line producer or whatever. Maybe we can connect on dogs. Maybe we can connect on women in film. Maybe we can connect on Florida or whatever else. Like try to figure, I mean, I'm not saying cyber stalk everyone you want to work with. Not everybody loves that, but I feel like create something, like try to connect instead of just what's in it for me. Try to focus on what you have to offer. Research the place that you want to go into, and this is really for anybody, and then see how you can connect and see how you can maybe create value.
Yeah, that's right. That's great. Wonderful. Let's also switch gears too, because you mentioned WIFT, Women in Film and Television. Is that Florida Film and Television, by the way, or is it Women in Film and Television?
So WIFT is a national organization, and then various states have their own, basically,
Chapters.
statewide chapters, and then within the chapters you have regions.
Great, got it. So this is an organization that I'm going to guess really pushes for engagement at the state level. Is that true? State does it lean into the politics and the funding and the legislation at all, or is this really just bootstrap grassroots?
This is a grant and scholarship program focusing on women in film.
I see.
So they could have anything from like new filmmaker grants, whatnot, that we give out at the end of the year, like our local events, Jingle Mingle. It's in Orlando. We run the South Florida chapter. So basically, what I'm in charge of is anything from networking, studio tours. I'm just created a new series of events called the Producer Series. So I have 6 different producers come in and talk to us.
Oh, wow.
Every other month about, like, we can go watch what it is that they've shot, and all of them have done something nice or great.
Very cool.
And then you can ask questions so that young filmmakers or people that kind of want to know more about it actually get direct access. But it's really with the focus, obviously, on women. But we are 35% male members. So I've really enjoyed that. What you were talking about is Film Florida. They have a paid lobbyist. It's a 501c6. So that's a little bit more focused on bringing business.
Got it.
Into Florida.
Got it. That's the Tallahassee side of things. Yeah. Understood. Yeah. And so how has working with women in film and television been personally rewarding for yourself?
I mean,
I understand that I think you've been with the chapter for a long time, if not a founding member of the chapter.
No, not a founding member at all. So we, post-COVID, once we didn't have to commute to an office so much anymore, we're like, okay, what else do we want to get into? And what we've learned in Atlanta, when we were there for the 5 years, is they have a really good community. Like GPP and like some of the organizations, everybody shows up. They give their time, no matter how big the casting director is. They show up for the events, for the Q&As, whatever. So we're like, okay, how can we kind of do this in Florida? And that's when my sister discovered WIFT. I'm a feminist at heart anyway. I'm always pushing for various women-led organizations or issues. So I was like, oh my goodness, we checked into it further, and then I saw like the parameters, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. I want to do the networking events. I want to get to know everybody in the community. I love the studio tours because we actually bring the event to the clients.
Very cool.
And then the producers, I mean, these are people like the first one that's doing is Brave Man Media. I've known him for 10 years. I love Damien and Ian. Like, I love the team, you know, so it's like cool. I get to like do really fun stuff with my friends, creating win-win situations. I don't know if you saw the IDX event we just did for Film Florida. We had almost 200 people in the room.
I did see that. Yep.
Over half of that were producers and directors or decision makers or money people.
Yep, right in the check. Yep.
That's what you want in the room. And
Totally.
Historically, give me one other event in Florida, especially a 501c3 based event where we raise the money to even have the event. Like I go and knock on everyone's door. I need liquor. I need food. I need balloons. I need a microphone. So that's what we do. And we've only been doing this for 2.5 years. And when we took it over, we had 8 members.
Wow, how many now?
I don't even know. But like our events usually are we did the International Women's Day at Telemundo event for WIFT. We had almost just over 200 attendees.
Yeah.
And all that money that we collect goes into we're all volunteers. It all goes into the grants and the fund grants and scholarship program.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I have definitely seen the events. I have definitely been beaten by Sabina to be there, and I promise I will. That's awesome. That's fantastic. What are some of the events that are upcoming now, and how can people find some more information?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to actually, because we just decided all the dates this week, so I don't have it all memorized yet. So our next Women in Film networking event is at the Sistrunk Marketplace in Fort Lauderdale. That's on September 4th. Then we have a studio tour also with WIFT at Dynamic Color Studios in Pompano on October 16th. All of our events are usually 6 to 8. That one has, we have free food and drinks, and they're really nicely set up. And anybody that's interested in seeing more about these events, they can always go to our blog. All the links to the past events are on there.
Got it.
Then we have the Film Florida second biannual networking event. The first one was at IDX. The second one is going to be in conjunction with FLIF, but we don't have our date yet. It's in November. Mm-hmm. And then the producer series, which I'm super excited about, starts November 6th with Brave Man Media, also at Dynamic Color Studio, which is a really cool studio. I don't know if you've been there. It's in Pompano. I didn't know it was there. They have the most high-tech LED wall that you can have. It's really cool. They kind of started at a tattoo space, and then they have like really cool custom cars, and then this like huge studio space where they can do anything from music videos to whatever.
That's awesome.
Backdrop. It's just like, it was a different combination, but it's super artsy. It looks very Wynwood.
Yeah.
When you walk in. I mean, a fantastic team. Like, we're so excited to work with them. But that's what I mean. I wouldn't have known them or met with them or went over there if I didn't do the outreach or they reached out to us. I don't remember how it happened, but that's what you need to do.
Totally. So, if you're looking at getting more involved, if you're looking at getting your hands into these things, if you're looking at meeting people that are in this industry, and that can open up doors, that sounds like a really obvious choice. Sounds like a really obvious choice to show up to one of these events.
Yeah. Don't be a keyboard warrior. Come see us.
Love it. Don't be a keyboard warrior. That's 100% true. So speaking of sort of some of these arms, and now I do kind of want to talk a little bit about the legislative side, because I know you are involved in it, and I know you do follow it very closely, and we as actors don't always follow these kinds of things. I happen to follow it because I am very interested in sort of how the state is sort of funding the arts, or maybe lack of funding the arts as of recent, and how, really at the end of the day, Florida is a wonderful place to live. It's a wonderful place to do business because we're such a unique state. But, there's been a sort of a loss of, I think there's been a trickling out of the value of film and television in Florida amongst our legislatures, not amongst me and you, not amongst the people who are in this industry and work in this industry, but amongst the legislatures. And of course, that's not something that we can control. The only way we can control that is you vote, right? So that's a big topic. But I just want to talk a little bit about sort of your experience in Florida over these last 16, 18 years, and how things have maybe shifted in that direction, especially recently, and kind of how you're thinking about TDA and our industry in the future, knowing that funding for the arts specifically is getting cut to basically none or zero, unfortunately. Kind of how are you all sort of thinking about and building a resilience for the years to come?
So, I mean, when it comes to that, I think, we were here for part of the heyday when it was so busy, we ran out of people all the time. And I was definitely part of that, loved it. I'm a big believer that I don't want to be in situations where I'm dependent on somebody else making the calls. And that's exactly kind of where that is. Like, I 100% think there should be state-financed film incentives. Like, there's no question on that.
No question, right.
But I'm not going to sit here and wait and cry about the fact that it's not there. Like, let's figure out other ways to do this. Broward County's figured it out. They have their own film incentives. Miami, the Film Commission there as well has announced a huge I mean, I think it's 50 million for Broward, and I think almost 100 million or something like that for Dade. Now they come with stipulations. You have to hire, so many people from within the county because it's taxpayer money. So if you're getting somebody, if that was part of the problem with the big incentives that we had, the whole state paid for it, but it was all being spent in mostly Miami-Dade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're in county in Florida, and you're like wondering why am I supporting this? This doesn't have any direct benefit on me, amongst other things, obviously. But they had this like whole first come first serve, so they just blew through it so fast.
Yeah. And
I don't think I think it should have been spread around a little bit differently. But you're always smarter later.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to being resilient, we just talked about this on another podcast. Like, we have so many amazing indie productions. There's some really good content that's being shot here. There's money that you can raise from the tech community that's just moved into town. Like the last 5 years, the last 4 years since COVID, huge tech boom in Miami. Yeah. There's a lot of money coming in. Mm-hmm. It's not that there's no money. Mm-hmm. You just have to get a bit more creative. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, produce good content, maybe bootstrap it a little bit more, but it shouldn't be a reason to stop producing. Mm-hmm. And I feel like for us, we actually have more, more film opportunities. They're just not as big. But then we can also, now we ship a lot of talent out of town for recurring roles. But how do you stay resilient? Listen, I don't know what the future holds. I mean, AI is this whole other topic where we're like, oh my, video spokespeople went away. Like all these different avenues that we used to be able to book talent as, that went away. But I think as a talent, if you can hone in on your skill set, be good at what you do, it's the lower hanging fruit that's going to feel this more than the ones that actually have a skill set.
Yeah. That's a good point. That makes a lot of sense.
There's a lot of money in Miami.
Yes, there is.
A lot of money in Broward.
A lot of money in commercial, too.
Yeah.
Commercial is still there as a whole sort of intact, sort of behemoth industry. Yeah. It certainly appears.
80% of our work has always been commercial. It was never film.
Yeah.
Now, but I think it's super sad. I think the last 10 movies that I've watched all should have been here.
Yeah.
Were shot here, but weren't shot here.
Right.
That stinks.
Yeah, I think Roadhouse was one of them recently, where it was set in the Keys, but wasn't shot in the Keys.
Yeah, and what's the other one with Halle Berry, and that was also all shot here, Miami Underwater.
Oh,
had this thing. Miami was flooded, and I just watched it last week, and I already don't remember the name of it, but it's all supposed to be here.
Somebody who's listening is like, I know it.
I know, right?
I know what.
I don't know why I can't think. I can't. I just remember Miami was under. I was half in, half out, so watching it. but it was.
Well, the truth is, and I love that counties are moving and being able to do their own thing, especially with Florida, legislature pushing for home rule on so many things. It's really it's great that counties can do their own thing because they can control it and keep it closer to home anyway. That makes all the sense.
Well, they've dismantled our film office on a state level. It got dismantled.
Yeah.
And then Susan, who was awesome, she was our liaison for LA, bringing projects here. She retired, so it's just kind of now it's on Oz. I go to there's a really cool conference that I go to called Connections by Le Book. Do you remember Le Book? Or I don't. Used to be a 2 spiral bound books that you would buy. One was for print, one was for film or anything moving. And it basically had all the companies that are out there.
I see.
Voluntarily were put in here. They didn't just sell a book with everybody's contact, but you could buy it once a year.
Got it. Almost like a phone book for
our industry, right? Yeah, but it was but it's nicely done, really, really. It was really pretty. Other than the spirals, things always got stuck together. But
that's the kind of thing that funding happens. That's the kind of thing that happens when there's funding. Right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that funding can create.
Yeah. So I go to the conferences, and I went to the one in Atlanta and met some really great clients that are out of Alabama. They're shooting in North Florida. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the public stuff go through. So they've been utilizing all of our talent for every one of their shoots for the last 3. But you have to get out there. We can educate on so many different levels. It is, where else would you want to live? I don't want to move anywhere. That's why I'm not opening up another office. I want to just promote Florida.
Yeah.
And our group and what we're doing here.
Yeah, wonderful. That's awesome. That's great. Well, and so the future is bright both for TDA and for Florida and for a lot of these organizations that are really
we're going to try our best. We're going to try our best.
That's right. That's great. Alex, just taking a pause on that moment for 1 second, if you can time that, mark that. I just want to see if I had any other questions in here that I kind of wanted to hit on. Was there anything else that you'd like me to hit on? Bianka?
I don't know. I think we covered a lot. Exclusivity, I didn't really go over too much. I know that you had that in your thing. If you want me to explain, but I feel like with everything we said, I would kind of alluded.
We said it without saying it, which I really like.
Where's your other stuff? I think the only other thing I'm going to bring up at some point is just our newsletter because it's free for everyone. And it doesn't just promote it's like all local industry events. So Arts Accelerator, Filmgate, everybody's events are on there.
Let's wrap up with sort of how to follow TDA and how to watch, how to follow TDA well into the future here and how to keep up with it. Cool. All right. All right, great. So as we wrap up here, tell us a little bit more about how anybody can follow TDA and follow you and kind of follow everything that you guys are up to that we talked about today.
Sure. So obviously you can find us on all our social medias, Instagram, whatnot. But if you want to follow, if you want to set up our free newsletter, it's on talentcheck.com. Obviously we highlight some of our things that we do, but it also will have at the end a listing of all the events that are happening in our industry, whether it's Filmgate, Arts Accelerator, AAF, like everybody's listed on there. I'd also really encourage if anybody has an idea for studio tours or events or anything that they can get, like if they want to have something that they would like to offer to our events, come find us, get us through the website or get us through social and talk to us. And I'm always willing to meet new people.
Awesome. I have to say, on the newsletter side of things, there's some really great content in there. And, I'm not just saying that because I read it, but there's a monthly newsletter that does come out. You're right. There's everything you just said. But I've also seen in the newsletter notices to all of us represented talent to show up for the town halls when we talk about like something. We go over like proper resume constructing or make sure breakdown services and actors access is set up correctly. Make sure casting networks is updated. That's really been something that I have been, I guess, fortunate enough to like learn it and understand it and be able to manage it right alongside you guys. But there's so much value in those meetings and that proactivity there. Have you seen that make a difference for your represented talent in following that stuff? Tell us about that. Because I know that there's a difference there. Because that's stuff that we don't know, right, until we learn it. That's a big piece of knowledge gap.
100%. So going back to when I mentioned earlier, so I was multi-listed as a talent when I moved to Miami, with various agencies. And I think the one thing that for the 4 or 5 years that I was in the industry on the other side here, but the biggest thing I was lacking is information. Yeah. I would go to a film audition with my comp card. And it's just like silly stuff that now I'm like, duh. Right. But during COVID, when the shutdown happened, and I think the shutdown was terrible for everyone, but we noticed with our talent being creatives, we found a huge set in almost of depression. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I know the whole world was doing this, but I could only affect, obviously, who I had access to. So we started doing the community meetings. And they initially started with how to use Zoom and how to do all the apps. Like, it's like Blue Jean or like all these different apps that you have to have as a talent now to basically do callbacks digitally. Yep. So that's how those meetings started. So we started them during COVID, but then we were basically like, okay, how do we keep everybody busy? We're going to give them homework so that if this ever lifts, like that we come out of the gate running. Yeah. And that's how it started. And then we just realized that it was really making a huge difference. A lot of people, there were like 15-year, 20-year veterans that I've known forever that they were talent I worked with as talent before, didn't know key like jargon. Yeah. Or how to submit what where, or that you cannot use your headshot for 5 years after because you look the same. Even if you did look the same, which, hey, if 5 years into it you look the same, great.
God bless you, right?
More power to you. Right. But do I really want to see that same headshot for 5 years and still be excited about it? Right. No. Right. So anyway, that's kind of how we started that, and we love them now.
Yeah, no, that's great because there is a knowledge gap. There's a knowledge gap about how to run the rights, how to run your breakdown services webpage. There's a knowledge gap about how to present yourself in a audition. There is a knowledge gap about how to set up, self-tapes correctly. And quite frankly, what happens after you book the job too. And I do know that training has always been a really important part of the curriculum at TDA as well. And I know that gets pushed emphatically, which I fully agree with. So anyway, yeah, great. Okay, cool. Well, with that, thank you so much for your time here. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for coming in, Bianka Krausch.
Richard, thank you for having me. Yeah. Yay.
Welcome. All right, see you next time.
All right, bye.
Hey, Thomas here again. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. The show is better when I get to hear from you. Got a question to ask our producer? Or you got a show idea or a guest I should interview? Maybe you just want to tell me that you love or can't stay on the show. Either way, I want to hear from you. You can reach me at bigbreakpod@gmail.com, and you can find my acting profile at castingtom.com or at Casting Tom. Big Break Pod is created and hosted by me, Thomas M. Copeland. The show is a proud member of the Pod Populi Network. Original music by me. Find the show online at bigbreakpod.com and at Big Break Pod.